science tells us how our bodies are designed, and science has radically altered our society and everything we do. So when is science going to start telling some of the rules how to swing a golf ball? And that's all we try to do with the project. And not to say that it is the only way to play, it is just a way to do it. It's a style. Okay? And by doing the research, why did we do it in the first place? Well, I think the National Golf Foundation says that you, the consumer, will spend $30 to $50 billion a year on this game called golf throughout the United States, which is a lot of money. And two, there is no consumer advocate program to protect your best interest in your investment, especially if you want to learn. If there's so many thousands and thousands and thousands of hours applying towards learning and teaching, and so you go to the teachers. They transfer their perspective of knowledge, but where did that base of knowledge come from? Is it empirical testing, or does it have some relevance to our scientific principle? And so what we did with the project was to try to bring in all the common denominators, and one of them was the fact that we all started from the egg and the sperm. We all have the 46 chromosomes, and we all basically are designed the same way. And so in asking one of the most fundamental questions was, in the study of the neuroscience, was this one, was how old do you have to be when you start the game? Now the question, I would like to have somebody raise your hands if you can. Anybody who started golf before age 10 here? Maybe 5 people? Okay. How about before 20? Okay. All right. After 20? Everybody? Well, okay. How about after 30? Okay. Okay. Anybody over 50? Okay. One of the things we found out was that the older you are when you start the game, the more difficult it is, because there are neural programs of how the brain is coordinated and how the cells work that control the ability to keep the eyes on the ball. The old cliche says you got to keep your eye on the ball. No, it's plural. You got to keep your eyes on the ball. Be able to maintain depth perception. And if you are, for instance, I'll use Tom's example here. Just kind of, if I look at Tom, if I want to touch his nose, I'm going to take both my eyes and focus, and I can touch his nose, so I know exactly where I'm looking. Okay, so my hand reaches in this trajectory in space. But if my eyes are looking over here, and I mean, I know Tom's not over there somewhere. I know he's not over there. I've got to try to touch him on the nose, but you know, here I missed it by 2 inches. But in golf, you got to be able to control the angle of attack of the club within 1/4 of an inch. You have the angle of approach you have to control within about 10 degrees. Then the rate in which the club face turns over has to be controlled within a little more than 1/4 of an inch. So if you don't maintain your eyes on the golf ball, if you set up an address and you turn your head over here like this, or the image of the ball switches to your peripheral vision, you'll get all these reflex systems that will kick in and override your motor memory systems. So the old cliche that says you got to keep your eyes on the ball is very true. Okay? Secondly, the old cliche that says you got to keep your head down. That's right, because your eyes and your head, the inner part of the ears, the oculus, control the 3 semicircular canals that control your balance. You must be able to keep your head set up. Why don't you put your finger towards my head there? If I set up like this, I've got to make sure that my head, so I can maintain my eyes on the ball, as I go up and come all the way down here like this, this cannot change. Okay. So what we did in the research was to find out how important were the eyes, how important were the ears, and what were the alignments of the torso, the legs, the arms, and the plane of the club shaft throughout the golf swing. And we've been doing this testing we started in April of '84, and we've done it for 6-7 years now. And what we tried to do was maintain a kind of a low profile in the golfing community. We haven't commercialized golf programs because we have our great disciplinarian, and his name is Mr. Science. And if you deal with science, there's certain rules of ethics and morality you must maintain. You cannot deviate from that. And the reason why I'm here today, because the gentleman, Chuck told me about last year, Mr. something H something, which is the gentleman that died.
O'Neill?
Yeah. Is that for the doctors, I will do anything. Okay. And so just as a little tribute today of the advancement of science, what he has done in the past, and that's why we're here today. Also, the fact is that he's black, because I think that if this is the great game of golf that players called penalty on themselves, that the black sector, there are so many great athletes out there. If we really, as a consumer, really want to see them play their best golf, or people, or the citizens of this country play their best golf, then I think it's about time that some of these social economical barriers are knocked down to allow them to have an opportunity to use the game as a platform, to bring out a little bit more, not only themselves, but some of their responsibilities as a citizen to this game, to the free world, to this country, to the planet, and to the human race. And so science is something that's really important for me, and it's very important in this program for us to tell us some of the rules. And but my other point was, if you start golf later, over 20 years old, in your knowledge, how many tour players got on the tour after age 20? Quick.
One.
Who is it?
Larry Nelson.
Oh.
Cal Pete.
Larry Nelson played high school.
What?
Horrible movie.
No, Lee started was younger, right? But there's only been, a few guys, right? Nelson supposedly played high school, but Calvin was the exception of the rule. And based on the studies that we did on the neurosciences, the various branches of the neurokinesiology, neuroanatomy, the neurobiochemistry, the neuropsychology, right, was that if Calvin didn't have a broken left elbow, he would never have made it. I'm not kidding, right? Because what he does is that when Calvin sets up to it like this, he's got his elbow bent, and what he does, he rotates the torso, the shoulders, and the hips, and then he just rotates back through the ball. He doesn't really get the transference of the energy. It's called stored potential energy from the body. It's transferred into kinetic energy, and just at the very bottom of the club shaft, parallel to the ground, the centrifugal force will throw the club out, and then you have centripetal coming back in. In Calvin's situation, he doesn't have to time the rotation of his left wrist, his left forearm, okay? Because those are the last fine gradation movements that have to be developed for the athlete. Because the golfer has to be able to control, stand right there, Jeff. He has to be able to control his movement in space as fast as he can. Like this. If I take the club here and do the same thing, I just won't look. But there's a trajectory that the hands are going to move in space, and if you don't have early input of that, because the eyes, the center of the eye, neurologically, is tied to the hands, the trajectory in space where the hands move. So if you lose your eyes off the golf ball, it sends messages to the various brain centers that says, I don't know where I am moving in space now. And that space within the body is called intrapersonal space. Anything within an arm's length is intrapersonal. The club shaft is in what they call extrapersonal space. So to control the movement of the club, the whole shaft is being controlled by the trajectory of the hands. The trajectory of the hands comes back to your foveation and central vision on the golf ball. And your balance and your feeling of where you are as moving is all based on your vision. So it's very important that is finally, completely mapped out to the neck, to the ears, to the eyes before age 18. This is why the game is so difficult. What?
Blind guys aren't good golfers.
No, they play well, to a certain degree, but see, they can't get over the hurdle where they can't get down shooting the 6. The reason why, because you have to control the radius of this club head, right? So here we are. We have all this, mountains and mountains of literature that's accumulated over the years. And now, how do we take this stuff so that it has to be condensed down so that if we're going to communicate with the consumer, well, the consumer is averagely from an 18 to a 30 handicapper. And there's a market there. And you guys come out for leisure. You don't want to get beat up with trying to some guy's dissertation on some theory about science, et cetera, right? And so this is why we've taken our time. And we've allowed this material to go through its states of evolution. We've worked with maybe 30 to 40 of the touring pros over the last 6-7 years. And one of the things we did was, just give me one more minute and then we'll hit some balls. But one of the things I did was, you ever notice that every time Mark Ramirez played well over the years, and this is not a direct criticism to Mark, but it's just part of the system. Every time Mark plays well, he goes in the press room, you can bet your life in the newspaper next day he's giving plugs to Hank Haney, his teacher. Okay, it's just day in and day out. Every kid that goes in the press room, he's got to mention his teacher's name. Look at Faldo. Look at Faldo's evolution. Every time Faldo's ever done anything on television, everything else. Oh yeah, here, Mr. David Ledbetter. He is my guy. He's done everything for me, right? They've just come out with a couple books Fowler wrote his book. David Ledbetter wrote his forward for him. They did their videotapes. So Nick made his money. Now David Ledbetter's come out with his book, and Nick Fowler wrote his forward for him. So now the public who's paying bills, they get milked twice by these guys. And the sad thing about it is that they've knocked off our stuff. on my honest to God. Okay. We work with Faldo. We work with David Frost. We work with Dennis Watson and Nick Price, and they're our friends. Any of the guys that came to us to ask for the research for the 6-7 years, we've kept the Hippocratic Oath to help these guys, and we've done that. And anytime our guys have ever gone to the press room, we've never made them say, "Oh yes, Mac O'Grady did this, Mac O'Grady did that." I'm not doing this for my name. And this MORAD, the name of our project, stands for Mankind's Objective Research and Development. It's not Mac O'Grady Research and Development, because that's tied to the ego, and that's tied to the certain forms of commercialization. And if you deal with the science, there's a whole new rules of ethics here. And this is what we're trying to do to protect your interest and your investment. And so over the next, we think the next 2 or 3 years, that there's going to be some dynamic changes within the system, so that if you go to a teacher, he's going to be certified, licensed, and registered. And in your understanding is the fact that he's going to understand golfology. Ology, the organized study of the game based on the sciences. And it's, so far we're saying that conclusively there's one way to swing a golf club, especially as you get older. And there's no difference biologically if you're a woman or a man, except that if you get taller, the physics ratio gets more difficult. It gets very complicated. And this is why you've got to be able to know what the rules are to maintain balance, because you're going to maintain balance so that you can rotate around a center of gravity point, so you can control your rotation. And there's various planes of the arms and torsos and things like that, and that's what we're going to cover in a couple more minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead and start then. We're going to show, why don't you both stand up in a straight vertical axis. Okay. So if this is the golf ball, Terry, why don't you put a golf ball down there? If this is the golf ball here, you take the dress position, you're straight vertical. The first thing I'm going to have them do is, when you stand here like this, you're balancing yourself around a center of gravity point. The moment he starts bending to the waist, now your center of gravity, if the legs stay straight, is going to go more towards your toes. Now, how many times you hear about them saying, yeah, you got to keep your legs straight, and maybe stick your butt out, and get your hands up here like this, and get your head up, okay? I'm going to explain why that's so complicated. So when he bends at his waist here, let's say 30 degrees with the 8-iron, right? Right. Okay. Is that now his center of gravity is no longer in the center of his feet, between his feet here. It's going to move more towards his toes like this. So one of the ways he counteracts that is by sticking his butt out more. The Oakleys, they'll say you got to get your rear end out more. Okay. And
it's a good stretch for the hamstrings.
Okay. All right. And so, and one of the things that we have a set of contact lenses with sensors on it, where there's a computer under the ground, so that when you look at the golf ball, we'll be able to map out where your vision is during the swing. Everything begins and pretty much ends there, okay? So if you are sitting up here with your legs straight and bent more from the waist, and you're going to get this constant inner vertigo, you could say, so to say, of teeter-tottering back and forth from your toes to your heels. And we don't want that to happen. So take your dress position straight vertical. All right. All right. So if you look at me now, Terry do the same thing. Why don't you move just a little bit this way? Why don't you put the club straight out like Tom is doing, parallel to the ground, right? All right. So if parallel to the ground. All right. So if they're both looking directly at me here, now I'm going to have them both bent, let's say 20 degrees from the waist. Okay, 30 degrees from the waist. All right. So that would make. This is Tom's ball here. His vision is going to be somewhere over here. So if he set up like this, if he bent 30 degrees from the waist, his vision is right like here now. Okay. Then he has to bend his neck 20 degrees like this to be able to put his ball, put his vision directly on the golf ball, so that the image of the ball is in the center of the vision. If you set up and get your chin up too high like this, now the ball is at the very bottom of your visual field. Okay. So how many people you see sit up and they're up here like this? And the problem with that is that the input into the inner ear, the head will want to turn this way. So if that's the case, if my head's up here like this, if I turn like this, how do I keep my both eyes on the ball? So it changes that. And this is very important because what makes golf, the game so difficult as it is that the ball's on the ground. And like baseball, all of you played a lot of baseball, and if you swing on a horizontal plane like this, the centrifugal force and everything will move on a certain horizontal plane. But in golf, you have to bend at the waist, and as you bend at the waist like this, it throws off the balance. And as you get older, the person gets more upright, okay? And as they get more upright, then it's mostly just their arms they're using, you see? And the key is to how do you get the torso, the shoulders, because the shoulders are rotating. This is the head, this is the left shoulder and right shoulder. The shoulders are rotating on an inclined axis like this. Why? To get the arms to move down towards the golf ball. If you get upright like this, then all the momentum is going to throw out on the horizontal plane. That's why it's important to stay bent at the waist so you can keep your vision. And then there's certain ways to be able to structure your knees so that as this lower part of the body rotates on a horizontal axis like this, but the upper part of the body is rotating on an inclined axis. So how do you mend the two to be able to control the trajectory of the arms to move on an arc? Well, the hardest thing in sports is to be able to keep your eyes on the ball, keep your center of gravity stabilized, and use every muscle in the body and every muscle in the body to try to generate as much energy as you can. And then you got to control the radius of the club head within 1/4 of an inch. Oh my God. Okay. So it's a tough game in a certain way. And wait, and that doesn't. Wait.
Thank you, Mac. We appreciate that.
Wait, and that does not even include putting. And I don't know about putting. Okay, go ahead.
Well, you can drop back to nobody breaks any. Yeah, nobody. And it is.
Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do here, I'm going to show you, there's like 5 different principles here that we're going to deal with today. And I can go through this real quick. And we broke everything down to pretty much to this context so that you, the consumer, can understand. At least I hope you do. Why don't you move your ball over here? Okay. And so the first thing we have to do here is, they're both hitting 8 irons, is he's going to set up to the ball, and he's going to make sure his knees are flexed about 20 degrees here, where the knees have to stay flexed. And the reason why, straighten the knees out, okay? If he just bends a little bit his waist like this, and you try to resist me, okay? And okay, is that
Great hamstring exercise.
Go ahead and move, and that flexion knees about 20 degrees, okay? What this does right here, this will start to stabilize the lower part of your body, okay? And so you can maintain your center of gravity point, all right? So number 2 is he's gonna set up, number 1 is his knees are flexed 20 degrees. Secondly, now the question is he's got to make sure his torso is going to bend about 20 to 30 degrees. The third point here is he's going to make sure when he sets up at address, his arms are going to be vertical underneath the shoulder. If you hit a sand wedge or a driver, they've got to be directly underneath the shoulder. And so that if that like this? No. Okay. Because the problem is if you start to get your hands up too high like this starts to uncock the wrist. And the more the wrists get uncocked, the more they start rotating and turning over too much. And then after impact, you got to turn around and try to square that up too much. It's too complicated. All right. Go ahead, set up. All right. So you'll see that his knee flex is maybe about 20 or 30 degrees, 20 degrees. He's going to bend at the waist because it's the shorter club shaft, and his arms have to be straight vertical underneath the shoulders here. Number 3 here is that his neck tilt, he's got to make sure that his neck tilt stays down like this, and it does not deviate and come up this way. Because if it does, then his shoulders will automatically start turning this way. Okay. All right. All right, why don't you take a fracture, no ball here. Both, take this fracture off of there. All right. And why don't you go to P4 and stop. Okay. And then go over to P9. All right. Now, if you look here, you see how much his head is outside his right shoulder like this. Okay. Carries as well. All right. If I set up, why don't you guys do it again? Okay. All right. All right. Go to P4. All right. Over to P9. Okay. Once. Okay. Let's do one more time. Okay. You guys really want to see it. All right. Let's go P1 to P2. Okay. P2 to P4. 4 to P6. Over to 8. Back to 4. Okay, down to over to 8. 8. Okay, back up to 4, over to 9, and down to 10.
Pastor Williams is going to love this.
That's great.
Get rid of her hook. What it is,
What it is.
if there are, the rule is you got to be able to control this clutch shaft. But that's in an extra personal space. You're going to control it basically through the movement of your body. Now the question, what are the rules, the alignments of the, we call the 13 major joints. You have 2 ankles, 2 knees, 2 hip joints, 2 shoulder, 2 elbow, 2 wrist joints. The 13th joint is the head-neck setting. So the whole movement of the body has to be set up so that you can rotate around your center of gravity point in the middle
Sound
here,
familiar?
like this, without having the brain make any major competition. And to get the forces of centrifugal and centripetal to work to your advantage. And so we're going to demonstrate here. We're going to hit a few shots once you sit up again. Okay? And let's have you go from P1 to P2 first of all. Okay. There we go. 1 to 2. Okay. Start over one more time. Okay. 1 to 2. Okay. 2 to 3. Okay. 3 to 4. Okay. 4 to 5. Down to 6, out to 7, that's impact, around 8, okay, up to 9, all right, and then down to 10. Okay, do it again, one more time.
You got to turn down.
You see, one of the things we had to do. One of the things we had to do was
You got to show them 11 and 12. We got to show them 11 and 12. Should I show them that? This only happens when you're on television.
Yeah.
okay.
Once you get up to P9, you come down to P10, P11 is here, and P12 is your catch.
That's got to be part of the deal.
You got to learn that.
So,
Just help Nicholas with the slow play. That's all.
we had to come up with our own language. So that if we're on the telephone, he's got a problem, Chuck's got a problem, we have to come up and say, okay, now what are you doing from P1 to P2? Why don't you guys go, okay? Because everybody says, okay, yeah, hit the backswing. Well, what stage is the backswing, okay? So go ahead, go from P1 to P2, okay? And Terry, you take your hands out and outside, and Tom, you take yours on point. Ready? You take your hands outside 12 inches, Terry, from P1 to P2. Okay? Now, look where the butt of the club is, where Tom is right here, and now look where the butt of the club is where Terry's is. His hands have gone out about 12 inches. Now watch, let me start over again. If you start over, if you take this club like this, and this is a straight vertical wall as such, if I take it right away, if I swing around the axis, the club is coming inside immediately, okay, like this, right? So one of the keys to golf is, now see my hand trajectory path? My hands are moving on an arc this way. Well, as long as I maintain the arc like this, I can maintain my center of gravity point. If my hands go out too much like this, it pulls me towards my toes. I'm going to go here like this, then back over towards my heels, and then come back down towards my toes, and then come back over towards my heels again. See? Okay? So, this is the importance. They say, yeah, balance. But who understands balance? I mean, Nicholas went to some kinesiologist down in San Diego who's had some back problems. The first thing Jack comes out and says, I don't want to say this gentleman's name, but he said, what's balance? And his reply was, well, you have to think balance. Well, yeah, I mean, you don't think balance, okay? It's a built-in system that's going to make the adjustments, and it's based on all the evolution and everything else, right? Okay, let's have you set up now. Again, one more time. Right. So, if he sets up, his hands right here, they're going to be moving on an arc inside this line like this. Keep going to the top. Okay. So that if you put the club like this, if you turn around your axis, and you keep lowering it like this, you have to keep moving your hands on the arc like this, going up this way. Right? So when the old saying says, God, that guy's got a good golf swing, that guy's got a great swing, or that one has an ugly, he looks unorthodox. Well, by what standard are they judging it? You take a beautiful woman or a handsome man, the females may say, I want to be 6 feet tall, Tom Selleck-like. We might think a woman might want to be so-and-so way, okay? But that's a subjective experience. But we all come to the same conclusions that, that person's got a great swing. Why is it that, what do we know that's good about it? what's the standard by which you judge it? And so what it is that you have to set the ball. If you Neil, put your hands in the cup. Okay. Here's the rules on what is a good golf swing. Okay. First one is that he cannot have any bobbing and weaving going up and down with his torso or his head. Right? Okay. Go take it to the top. Okay. So there's a certain control that you have to control of this posture of the body as it sets up, as you set up at address. Go all the way around to P9. Okay. So there's rules here how this torso and this head must specifically be aligned throughout the swing. Okay. Number two, I want you to put your arms down this time. Okay. And just keep your arms perfectly straight. And just go ahead and turn around your axis again. All right. See how his hands will go in automatically, the arms, because they're just following the turn of the torso. Okay. Do it again. All right. One more time. Go to the top. All right. Come all the way around to P9. Okay. If a player does this, if the arms are properly lined up, then it creates a certain symmetry. The player looks like he's in control. Number three, go ahead. Okay. The third point here is now there's a plane that the club shaft must be aligned to. Okay. If he has his go up to P4. Okay. All right. All right. Do it one more time. All right. Go up to P4. All right. One more time. All right. One more time. Now, this time I'm going to have him go up to P3. Go to P3 and stop. Okay. Now, what if he goes up to P4? What if his club shaft lined up like this? Even though his arms follow the rotation of the torso, and the torso rotated around its axis, so he can keep his eyes on the ball and his head stabilized and maintain the center of gravity. But the shaft goes off like this, and the wrists aren't properly lined up, so that it creates a disharmony here. See? Start again. So start again. That's why. What? If we go to P1 to P2, there's certain positioning where the club shaft is here at section position 2. If you go up to P3, you see how the club shaft is pretty much lined up the same. Okay. P4, top we're parallels. Okay, down to 5. Okay, down to 6. Out to 7. Okay, around to 8. All right, up to 9. All right, it's parallel to the ears, and then down to 10. Okay. There are real specific guidelines where this shaft has to be. And it's amazing. We've taken gentlemen who have been 80 years old to kids 8 years old. And in about a good hour and 15 minutes, you'll get them he'll hit balls together. If the kid's 80 years old, go ahead, sit up. Okay. Before you know it, go P1 to P2. He knows it. Okay, P1 to 2. Okay. He knows where the club shaft's got to be. Okay, go up to P4. All right. And there are specific rules how these knees are supposed to be lined up. Start over again. All right. If he sets up at address, I'm going to just tell you a couple more things about alignments here. Go ahead, sit up, buddy. If you're going to deal with just the alignment of the lower part of the body, why don't you guys in this way? Just like this. You see how his left? See how the left foot is opened up? How it's not perfectly straight like this? Okay. One teacher will say it's got to be straight. Next one says it's got to be open. Okay. Well, we did a study of the complete range of motion of all the 13 joints to be able to know how to integrate them. This left foot's got to be out about 20 degrees, and the right foot's about 10 degrees. And what this does, this allows you to be able to rotate better around your axis going throughout the swing, especially because all your power is going to be coming from your hips. Sit up again. Okay. All right. Number 2 is when he's going to the top of the swing, the alignment of this right knee. Why don't you aim out the driver again? Okay. Watch the right knee here. It is flexed about 20 degrees. Go from P1 to P4. Okay. All right. Well, you don't want this right leg straightened out because if it does, now the weight goes back towards the right heel. Okay. So then you get this counteracting dispersion going on. Do it again. Okay. So the right knee has to stay flexed. All right. And now if he straightens it out too much, which makes his hips turn too much, which makes his shoulders turn too much, he can't keep his eyes on the ball. All right?
I need more shots.
All right, do it again. Okay. Do it again. Okay.
If I got that position, you give it
Quick. Go to P4. Go to P4. Stop. All right, now. You see how both their left arms are parallel to your shoulder line there? Both of them? Left arms, both Terry and Tom's arms are parallel to the shoulders here. This is all being controlled through the trajectory of the right elbow. 10 years ago, everybody had it like this with Nicklaus. Everybody copied that, okay? Today, every player has their left arm parallel to the shoulder. Everybody's come back on down. And you know the reason why he wants to be there? Because if your arms are set up vertical like this, and if I just rotate around my axis like this, and then cock my right elbow up, we bring it right on the shoulder line, okay? Because when you come back to the ball, you're going to turn right back down your same axis and deliver your arms back in the same plane. If you take it too much inside and come around like this, or set up this way and take it too upright, when you start rotating out like this, the arms will follow the plane of the shoulders. See? So this is why it's very important some of these alignments have to be maintained in order to control the radius of the club and the energy that's being transferred to the golf ball to control its direction, distance, and position. Okay, so now let's go P1 to P4. Then we're going to start hitting some shots here. Go P1 to P4, okay? And once you go over to P8 and a half, oh, 8 3/4 right there, okay? A little bit higher up, okay. Now, it's also important that in the follow through here, the right arm is parallel to the shoulder. So all you try to do is just move it on a perfect circle, okay? So as he comes up here to P9 and it comes to his ears, the right arm straightened out. It'll be parallel to the shoulders. It's the same plane that it was as it went up the top of the swing here, coming all the way around this way, okay? Let's hit a couple shots.
Let's not say we did.
Ready? Okay. All right. 1001, 1002, 1003. Okay.
Nobody whiffed it.
All right. 1001, 1002, 1003. Okay, now, once you're used to it, what?
A putt for birdie.
Go ahead. Why don't you guys get real close together? I'm just going to say a couple more things. And, one of the key elements in the golf swing here is that once you guys go over to P8 3/4, now go to P9. Ready? Go P1 to 4. Well, I hit it? No. P1 to 4. Okay. Good. Over to P9. Right now, you see how this upper part of the body is tilted to the right? So the axis, the center of gravity is pretty much right here, but the more the shoulders are tilted to the right, there's one joint that's going to be able to stabilize. If his heel comes up too much like this, he'll automatically go over that way. And, okay, do it again. Okay. Go P1 to P4. Okay, over to P9. Right. If this right heel goes off like this, then what happens is the golfer automatically will come up like this to center himself back to the center of gravity point. Okay? So this one joint of the right knee, why don't you guys do it again? No, full swing. Watch how the right heel will stay down in the end. Okay, ready? 1001, 1002, 1003. Full swing. No. Okay? One more time. Let's have it get it. Hit it. Got a ball? Yep, ready? 1001, 1002, 1003. If you go back and look at what's taking place on TV now, you see all the players, because they've been exposed to the information about being out there, you'll see all of them maintaining the tilts of their shoulders like this. The head is staying outside the right shoulder. You'll see that the right heel is staying down like this. And the other point is, do it one more time. Why don't you guys
I'll drive you by 50 yards.
Okay, ready? 1001, 1002, 1003. Okay. You see the space between the knees here? And both of them, right? This is really important because if this heel comes off like this, the tendency, if you separate your knees, you'll throw off your center of gravity point. It's too hard to control the rotation.
Could you get the towel in the bag?
Forgive me if this really kind of sounds too detailed and too complicated, right? But there's no other way you can map this out. So what we try to do is understand what each of the joints of the body is doing based on anatomy, so that if somebody does have a good golf swing, we can somewhat define it. You want to take some tree wood out? Are you kids ready to do that? Okay.
Well, I guess it's not,
Excuse me. Question.
How close they are.
Where's the club is, you don't have to worry about hitting it.
1001, 1002, 1003. Okay? 1002, 1003. Okay? Ready? 1001, 1002. Okay, one more.
Why out of the fence?
The only reason he has to come down is to get the tire.
1001, 1002.
There's hardly anybody moving. Simple bloody
Okay.
This guy doesn't even look as if he's moving.
So in summary, most of the stuff we've tried to discuss here a little bit, because I know we're kind of cut short on time, is that when you have a chance, if you have the money to purchase the books for the tapes next year, is that the books are written in such a way that you can follow right through the videotapes. And what's really important to us is that we're not doing it for the capital gains of it. We just really care about trying to improve your ability to define a problem, and then to be able to organize that information, to use it to your advantage, to have a better control of the radius of that club head, and play a better game of golf. Now, if you want to talk about putting, I'm not the guy to talk about it. Okay, what's that?
We noticed that.
Okay, any questions at all?
Put something on ball placement, on the drive and on the ball placement we just mentioned.
Okay. The basic rules are that, I play the ball up in my stance. My ball is pretty much up. I had a sponsorship out here in 1972, and one of the fellows who was my business manager at that time, if you want to use those words, he made me put the ball back in my stance over here. And in a very short time, I couldn't play at all. And it really put me in kind of a spiral for 10 years. And there was a gentleman up in Seattle named Homer Kelly who wrote a book called The Golfing Machine. It was on the science of the swing. Right? And one of the first things Mr. Kelly told me was that the center of the arc of the club head is opposite your left shoulder. So with the longer clubs, you can literally play the ball up in your stance that far if you have to. Okay? And there's certain rules about trajectory. I mean, if you're going to hit a 2-iron down, you don't want to put the ball up that far up in your stance because you're going to be coming up on the ball. Okay? But generally, per se, is that the ball will be played opposite your left heel. If you're hitting the woods, that's pretty much been characteristic over the years. And there's certain. Let me hit a couple of shots and I'll show you. I mean, you can. I can tee the ball up. This is a 3-wood here. I can tee the ball up and have the ball up in my stance and still hit the ball down low. Well, I thought it was going to go low. Let's try one more. Well, see, what I have to do here is I have to really time coming into impact and have the bottom of the blade just hit just a little bit below the equator. Try one more time. There we go. And one of the ways I do that is real simple.
Copy Trevino.
Is if I sit up at address, stop 1 more percent. Okay? And once you take the butt of the club, you're going to point at my left shoulder. Okay? Let's do it from this angle so everybody sees. If I go from P1 to P4 up here, point at my left shoulder.
Oh, here.
Is that a little bit closer? Now what I've got to do here is the normal trajectory, I'm going to go like this. See how my shoulders, the plane of the shoulders is not altered, okay? And that's being done in an effort to keep the eyes focused on the ball and you don't have any change into the inner ear to control your balance, right? Let's do it one more time. All right. P4, I'm going to go. All right, now I'm just rotating around my axis.
See how near you
Look
keep
at
that
the,
elbow there? God,
the iron bar machine? Iron bar machine, same thing, okay? And until somebody comes up with a machine like a robot that's designed with a human being, they're going to follow these same rules like this. Okay? One more time. Now that shot, when I hit the ball very low, I took the club to the top of my swing, and I came forward this way, okay? I tried to maintain the same axis I had at address, top of my swing, down to impact, and in my follow through this way. I'll do it again, so you can see this. If you look at one of the reasons why Palmer has always knocked the ball down, because as Arnold gets in here like this, right, takes a cigarette, okay, and if Arnold gets in here as such, he'll go, watch my dorsal tilts like this, okay. See how I'm forward like this? Okay. But if you take somebody like Nicklaus, you want to put the club up? P4. Now watch, this is called, we call this dorsal tilt number 1, bent from the waist. What Nicklaus will do, why don't you move a little bit over here more, Tom? Okay. And you can move that over closer. Right, watch right here. What Nicklaus will do, what we're going to write about this, is that if you take a guy like Trevino gets in here like this, he lines it up left, puts the club down here like this, and here's his trajectory. Right? Forward again, this way. Every player that played the game, that hit the golf ball, and the spectator could see the flight of the ball, the public loved him. Because he can see the flight of the golf ball as it's silhouetted against fairway, tree, horizon, blue sky. And there's something, if you want to say, existential or spiritual about that. I don't know what it is. Nicklaus, Watson, some of these guys, they get over here like this, and the ball's already up there, and the gallery's going, well, where is it? I don't see it. Okay. Where is it? Right? And they say, well, it's in the fairway. And everybody goes, oh, good. See, and this is the problem with even the golf course architecture. You take a putt on 10. You take a putt on 15. You can have the whole gallery anywhere on the greens. This is the hole right here, and this ball is 30 feet away. The whole gallery can make their evaluation appraisal of this ball swing, and they're going, whoa, yeah, right? TPC courses, you got all these hills and mounds. Ball kind of goes up the hill, and the gallery can't tell where the ball is, and all of a sudden it goes in the hole, and they go, yay! You see? And there's something lost with those designs and that type of trajectory of the golf ball. If it gets up there, the consumer can't see it, right? And, okay, so this point here about the rotation of the shoulders, do it one more time, is if you're going to change the trajectory of the flight, this one's going to go real low, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what happens to that one? Under a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. Okay. If you're a power hitter, this ball will go off. It goes a lot of different ways, right? Okay. And this is where, if you look at Arnold or Trevino, they went like this with their left knee. Instead of coming to impact, you have the left leg straighten out. It allowed the club to keep moving on the arm like this. And the hands keep moving left.
Now I gotta move.
Okay. But if the left knee keeps staying bent, come all the way down here like this, then the hips don't rotate anymore. So if I sit up at address, watch my left foot here. If I sit up at address, Tom, why don't you put the club near my left shoulder, top of my swing, okay? As I go to the top, and I'm going to come all the way over to P9, I'm going to go like this. See how my left foot has not changed? That's exactly the same. Right? But if you look at Nicklaus or even Palmer, what they've done, they've taken the club up to the top, and then if it's Palmer, he'll go like this.
Yeah.
Right. Okay? And the reason why he does it, because that's the only way he keeps his left knee bent to keep his hips rotating. His hips will stop rotating if the left leg stays bent. It can't rotate anymore. So therefore, then the energy is going to go just to the arms and being transferred that way. And you want it in the hips because that's where your center of gravity is in the largest part of the body to be able to speed up the rotation. One more thing here. If you look at Nicklaus, same thing. What Jack did, Jack went behind the ball like this, but he still rotated over the left, his left foot. So what we do with our program to find out to have the most efficient swing, to have the less stress on the body, is to be able to have the left foot open up 20 degrees, go to the top of the swing, and that maintains exactly the same, and the left leg straightens out in there. And the follow through the knees, the hips, the shoulders. One more time. If I go top of my swing here, I'm going to go over to P9 like this, wham, okay? The shoulders, the hips, and the knees are at right angles to your collarbone. Okay? All right. Mr. Hazard, where is he? Did he leave? Look at that. Hey, Al. Let me introduce myself. Matt McGrady's my name. Pleasure. Please hello to Terry O'Cross. Terry O'Cross. Okay. Mr. Tom Anton. All right. How long have you been playing?
Retired 18 years ago. Decided to get that.
Good. Why are you doing it? You know, one of the things that, if I may say this, is I think one of the wonderful things about the game of golf is that it really brings in a certain social cohesiveness to man himself, because he's a social creature. And I think this is one of the special things that as we get a little bit older, man has a certain fascination about his fellow man. Clothes he wears, styles his hair is, the way he says his words, language, culture. It's kind of fascinating. And I'm glad to see that you're playing against me, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of people
Trying.
Right?
Trying.
Okay. And what was your handicap at one time before?
My game.
Yeah, before. Okay.
I was surprised. We're not betting, Coach. You don't have to
No.
lie.
Right?
I just got frustrated and decided to play tennis.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's watch you hit a couple balls. Okay. Have you had any formal training ball or anything like that before?
Yes, you can call it for.
Okay. Okay.
Let's try it
And
on.
what kind of handicap are you playing to now?
I have no handicap. I just
Is
take
he
the
one of
most
those?
shots I can get.
He's tough on the first tee, isn't he?
Okay.
No, I'm honest. I'm being honest with you.
Okay, take your dress position and then just hold it for a second. All right, come on. Hold. Come on. Come on. Stay there. Stay in your dress position. All right, watch. Now, some of these people will naturally, see how his feet are kind of webbed open? See the flex of his knees? Okay. Well, there's one more point we didn't bring up, is that when you're set up at a dress with an iron shot, your right shoulder is going to be just a little bit in front of the right knee. But when you're set up with a wood like this, here, see how my right knee and the right shoulder is in a straight line? Like this? See how that's in the right palm shoulder? Okay. Okay. And the reason why that is to stabilize your center of gravity point. If I go like this, now I get too top heavy. If I get too much, my hands get up here like this, now I've got too much back towards my heels, right? So please set up. So it's amazing how a lot of guys, or men or women, will actually set up to the ball naturally like this. See how his arms are underneath his shoulders? Okay. Let's have you go top of the swing. Stop. Okay. Now see how his left arm is pretty much close to being parallel to the shoulders here. His right knee is staying flexed, which looks pretty good, right?
Coach, you got a little gap here, baby.
Okay.
Defense is sagging here, Coach.
All right, start over again. Okay. Now, let's have you aim in this direction. Right now, we've been saving this for the last. I said before about the eyes, right? Boy, the grip is number 2, most important thing. I mean, if your grip is bad, please.
You got a good.
All right, now watch. Now, Tom and Trey both stand up next to him to the side of him. Please. All right, go ahead and take, and Coach, could you just take your right hand off the club, just your left hand? Right hand off the club. All right. Now, if I do the same thing, see how it's pretty close to what we're doing, where our position is, right? The left hand.
Terry, turn this way. Turn to one.
See how the left hand is turned over on the club shaft? All right. Now, why? It's because if this is let's say a golf cart, am I going to go to the front of the golf cart and pull it this way, or am I going to get on the other side of the golf cart and push it this way? Right? Leverage. So the grip has to be on the right side of the club shaft, and also your right hand, okay? Because if you're able to do that, you're able to keep the butt of the club down. If your left hand gets on top too much and your right hand gets up on top, you get too much hand and forearm rotation. Then when you come back to impact, you'll be like this. Then by the time you come to impact, you can't square the blade up. You'll have to go like this, right? So in the research we did on every golf book that's ever been said, Hogan's book, everything in Hogan's book, with the exception of the grip, right on. Absolutely perfect, okay? The only problem is he was only 5'4", 5'5", so he was very small. And the fact is he had less distance for his hands had to rotate to square up. With our system, the way it's set up is that the grip is, left hand is already pre-rotated. The right hand is already pre-rotated about 20 degrees to the right. The left hand is pre-rotated 40 degrees, 45 degrees. So when you come down to impact, you're going to be just coming through impact, just holding your hands and rotating your body. If the grip gets too weak, the hands will turn over too much and the butt of the club shaft comes up. And it throws the body up like this, and your arms are kind of constantly going like this.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How many people, when they were younger, were pretty good players, but you had a strong grip? And the first thing the pro does is go, oh man, we got to work on this grip. You can't play with a grip like that.
Okay.
And you're throwing frozen ropes at the pin all day.
Okay.
And then you go to the weak grip, and you're like a caveman hunting lunch for the next couple of years.
Okay, so it's very tough, right? So this is what we try to do with the anatomy. Now, Mr. Hazard, go ahead, please. All right. If you looked at it, now his left-hand grip is pretty good, and his right-hand grip looked pretty good. All right.
Just change.
It's bad now.
It feels strange.
He said it feels strange. Fellas, lunchtime.
All right. One more second, please. And a little more to your left. Okay. Let's go. You go to the top of the swing, stop. Okay, good. Let's go all the way, follow through, all the way to the top. Go ahead. All right. Good. Now see how his right arm is not parallel to his shoulders? See how his right arm went up this way? Okay. Do one more time. From this view, you're going to look to see, does his left foot change, does it rotate? Two, does his left leg straighten out? Go ahead, go all the way over, you finish. Left knee still bent, see that? Okay, all right, one more time. All right, to the top, all the way to finish. Okay, now if you see how his torso was tilted to the right like this, all right? Yeah. So what we would do, I want you to come both, all right?
Mac, I just call Haney.
What?
I call Haney and have him work with him.
Okay.
Over there.
All right, now watch, now watch. One of the things what he was doing, Mr. Hazard was coming through the ball and his right arm was coming up a little bit too high. I'm going to do a drill here to make sure he gets this right arm down over here where it's parallel to his shoulder. Go right ahead, please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead, hit it. Now, wait. Make sure when you come through, this club shaft goes left of this club, right?
Goes left to the...
Yes.
Okay.
Okay? Go ahead. Okay? Try it again. Okay. Go inside. Okay? One more. Now, if we probably had 45 minutes working, playing around with this, and put it on film, away again. One of the things we do when we start doing the clinics is we have a big TV screen. We hit balls before. We'll bring somebody out. We'll hit balls together. Then we'll just take them off for 30 minutes and then bring them back over and show the different similarities of the changes that take place. So the audience can see right on the screen, right? Do one more time. But this time we're going to do a practice swing here. Why don't you go ahead and set up the ball, right? And when you come through the ball, Tom, would you stand in front of him for a second? Oh, I get the front. why don't you put your club shaft down right here like this, all right? And right underneath his shaft, right? And we're going to have you come roll up this way. Keep this shaft, your shaft, on this shaft. You're going to take this way as you come through and you follow through.
I love you, baby.
This way here, right? And your shoulder's going to stay tilted, and your right arm's, your hand's going to finish outside your left shoulder, out here. Okay, not up here. Okay.
Now do it real fast, Walt.
What do you want to pay for? One more practice.
Exactly. Yeah. Give him a shot of that P4, Walt.
P7 is what he does.
Okay. Right. Let's put your knees close together. There you go.